Cash Color Campus, a high level of conversation on LivehiphopDaily.tv, and I have my guest in the building. Hey, Hope.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
All right, I know you are. You know, I got a chance to bump into you Saturday. I didn't get a chance to see you speak because by that moment you had saw me, I was up from like the Friday morning because we had an event prior to that moment, so I had to fall out. But I heard you did great.
Thank you.
And you won a trophy too, will you? Entrepreneur of the Year?
Yeah, I got Entrepreneur of the Year. It's great to be recognized, you know?
Always.
Yeah.
So for those who might not recognize you or don't know you, state your name and tell us what you do.
So my name is Hope Wiseman. I am the owner of Mary and Maine, which is a medical cannabis dispensary in Capitol Heights, Maryland. And since, I've been deemed the youngest African-American woman to own a dispensary in the United States. So, yeah.
That's a lofty title, too.
It is. It's very long, and it's also just like, it's actually heavy, too, to actually carry that responsibility, too.
It really is, and I want to speak about that later, because that's one of them titles you might luckily or unluckily hold for another 10 years.
I hope not.
I was thinking about that myself. Like, I really hope she's not the youngest, probably by next year, but there's a really good chance that's going to happen.
Yeah. Because it's only getting more difficult.
So you might be reigning champ of that for a little while, but we'll discuss that later. So talk to us about how you ended up in cannabis in the first place, because you started out like most people actually in corporate America. So talk to us about that transition. What made you leave corporate America and the world of finance and come over here where we smoke weed and talk a lot of that?
So I was in college. I went to college down here in Atlanta. I went to Spelman.
Yep.
I was an economics major, and all throughout school I was interning at investment banks. And ultimately, I ended up working at an investment bank down here in Atlanta, SunTrust Robinson Humphrey. I was doing equity institutional sales, which is pretty much like selling stock research to mutual fund managers and hedge fund managers, people running those funds.
Sound like something that's about to be on Netflix.
Probably,
like about to be on
all
Netflix
that stuff. Like, I was really kind of in that world now. Kind of what people think of Wall Street, though, is a little... It's a little exaggerated. It's more true of like what Wall Street was back in like the 80s. It's definitely calmed down now, but it's still very intense. It's long hours, very, very difficult. They expect you to perform at really, really high levels at a young age.
And that's stressful, I believe.
It's extremely stressful. Yeah, it's very difficult. And, a lot of the kids that I was interning with and then ultimately working with full time were coming out of Harvard, Penn, Stanford. So, coming from Spelman, I definitely felt like I deserved to be there, but just like the actual level of knowledge that I had around finance. I was an economics major. I wasn't a finance major. So it was difficult for me to keep up with those kids, but it definitely taught me how to be tenacious and how to get around situations and teach myself.
Really? I wouldn't look at it as a situation where you thought you had to catch up with the Harvard, Penn students, but I was in Inroads, and I know that they're really like an intense group of people themselves.
Very much so.
Yeah, so but what led you to cannabis of all things? Like, you could have quit and become a yoga instructor or done a lot of things. Like,
that would have never happened. But so what really drew me to cannabis was just the huge economic opportunity of this industry at first. That was the very first thing that drew my attention. So remember, I was an econ major in school. I had just started working full time at SunTrust. So I'm down in Atlanta. I'm getting up every day at like 4:45 to get to work by like 5:45. And I'm working till like 6 and 7.
Sheesh. And that's traffic is up early in Atlanta.
Well, I moved my butt right next door to where we lived. I literally used to walk across the street.
That traffic is real.
Because, I can't do the traffic. But 5:45 in the morning, it's not that much traffic. But, I just remember waking up every morning. I was so sad. Like, I was unhappy. It just really wasn't where I wanted to be. But I remember one day watching CNBC, and I remember watching them talk about cannabis in the industry, and they were talking about the growth of the industry, and I was just so amazed by the fact that the industry had double-digit growth every year for like the past 5 years, and it was barely legal in the U.S. So we're talking about back in 2014 at this point.
Okay.
So I just remember thinking, and remember I was an econ major, so I just graduated, and I remember looking at, I was studying multiple different industries over the years, so then I'm like, that's not normal. Double-digit growth for the past 5 years, and it's barely even legal here in the U.S.
Sounds like a scam, right?
Yeah, I'm like, what is that?
Pyramid
and
scheme.
I start paying attention, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be huge. And then I started looking at the projections, and back in 2014, they were saying that the cannabis industry would be around, by now, it'd be like maybe $1 billion industry. We're already at like 12, 13, 14, 15 billion dollars now.
Yeah.
You know, they're projecting 75, 100 billion by 2025 at this point, you know, so the growth hasn't stopped. That's what initially got me interested in cannabis, and that's what got my juices flowing about it.
That's a ridiculous amount of growth too, because I remember it might have been last year that almost every month I get a press release talking about how much money was made in Colorado.
Yeah.
And after a while, it just started adding up to. I'm like, are they at 100 million already? Like, I mean, were they like $1 billion already? Like midway through the year?
The state is in a surplus at this point.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, you caught it at the right time. You know, we're in a space now where we're people are still trying to trickle in. They're still trying to learn enough to find themselves into the business. But you found your way in, and you brought your mom with you.
Yeah.
Like, how did that work?
So, I mean, I like to think of it more like I didn't bring my mom with me. My mom put me up on her shoulders and allowed me to be who I am.
Oh, man, that's like a word right there.
Yeah, like I didn't do anything for her. She did everything for me. But so when I remember after like really being intrigued about the industry from a business perspective, because I'd always believed in cannabis, you know, from a medicinal and adult use perspective. I thought that it should be legal and all of that. But I didn't really look at it from the economic perspective. I didn't really understand the industry. So once I did, the first person I thought of to go to with the idea was my mother. I was raised to be an entrepreneur. My mother is an entrepreneur. She owns her own dental practice as well as multiple properties and has tried a lot of different business ventures growing up. My mom started her dental practice the year I was born. So I was 6 months old in a crib while my mom is like literally, I mean, I've seen pictures of all that. I've been with my mom since day one.
So you was growing while she was working.
Yeah. And she taught me how to run businesses from day one. So when I went to her, I was like, Mom, I have this awesome opportunity. It's going to be huge. I think that we can build some generational wealth through this. And I presented her with the idea, and she was like, let's do it. I mean, it didn't really take much convincing at all.
That's what I was about to say. That's cool as hell. So your mother, it didn't take a whole lot of convincing.
No.
Was she already cannabis friendly prior to that?
Wow. Not at all. Like, and I don't even think my mom really knew that I used cannabis at that time. She had no idea. I remember.
Does she know now? Is she finding out now?
Yeah, I mean, of course she does now. Yeah, now she does. But and my mom is open to cannabis use. My mom has gone through some health scares, and she's used cannabis in substitute of other medicines, and we've been able to see firsthand how cannabis can really be an alternative medication. And I really truly believe, I know even a lot of adult use or recreational users, sometimes they're like, cannabis is not, it's not real medicine. No, it's real medicine. And I got to see my mom, who never used cannabis. She said she smoked some weed when she was like 16 or something, but like she never really ever used it, and it really made all the difference. My mom went through a whole cancer scare.
Look, I really applaud you and your moms, because when I first told my mom about, she found out I was smoking weed. Like, matter of fact, shout out to my girl Charity, who's a Spelman, and she's a Spelman alum too. Me and her used to come to the house high as hell. We was in college, and we would eat all the food. And I remember one day my mom said, "Yo, why y'all keep coming in here just eating up everything at 2 a.m.?" And she said, "Y'all smoking that weed, ain't y'all?" But even now, kind of speaking to her is kind of odd about it, because when I first told her I was doing the show and I was working on the documentary, her first reaction was, don't get arrested. Like, that was her very first reaction was, I pray you don't get arrested doing this. And I'm like, Mom's First Amendment, and she's like, you're gonna get arrested. But no, she's actually more open to it now. Like, she actually called me probably last year, and she had read a story that somebody did about me, and she goes, okay, so I was reading about you, and I got some questions. I was like, what's the question? She said, is this why they was messing with Ray Charles back in the day, like, because of the whole cannabis thing and all this? And I was like, yeah, kind of, sort of. That's why all that kind of tied in. She still ain't with it, but.
I mean, it takes a lot of convincing. I have family members that really didn't understand what me and my mom were doing. I remember my grandmother, my mother's mother, I tried to like show her weed one time, and I like had it in my hand, and I mean, I think she thought she was gonna like die off of like.
I tried to imagine my mom doing that. Yeah, she'd have been like, "What the hell you?"
I mean, my grandma was like, don't show me that, like, don't get that away from me. But it's funny how now that kind of the open public has accepted me as an established businesswoman, as I've been like brought in to speak more at conferences and all that stuff, now all of a sudden my family's like, wow, we're so proud of you. I'm like, I've only been doing this for the past 5 years, but that's okay.
I'm entrepreneur of the year though this year. That's what's up. So what do you felt like has been the biggest challenges you face being in business so far?
I hate to sound redundant because I feel like this is like the one that always comes up that everyone says, but definitely access to capital.
Oh yeah.
That's definitely the most difficult. I and my business partner, so my mother and we have a third co-founder, and the three of us, we bootstrapped everything up until pretty much this point.
Good.
Which was great, right? Because we were able to build value, and now we can go out and raise money and not have to sell our souls. But it gets really difficult. There's no banking access. You can't go take out a small business loan. The loans that are available in the cannabis industry are normally extremely high interest rates, and most of the time you're not making a lot. You're not. Your cash flow is not really at a point where you can take loans.
No, and
you're not profiting, so you can't really take loans in the beginning.
What I find too is you got to be skeptical. You almost got to be cautious about who you take money from.
Yeah.
And it reminds me again about the music industry. You'll find a lot of people who have money to do this, but you don't know why they have it, and you don't know what they want you to do. Like I had a situation where I had to turn down some money. It was like I wanted that money, but I don't even know what you about to ask me at the end of the day. So. And
when you're a legally, licensed dispensary, your finances are extremely scrutinized. All your investors, at least in my state, you have all the investors more than 5% have to go through a full financial background check, a full criminal background check federally. There are rules around it. It's very difficult. And then on top of it, I cannot take money from just anyone. It has to be an accredited investor. I still have to apply by SEC regulations. I can't crowdfund. So it's very difficult. And my family and friends that are like, hey, I want to invest. I want to give you $5,000. I can't take that. So it gets difficult.
Yeah, it's like a want moment. Like, like you can't take that. That's
I can't take that.
I know, you should know this by being an economics major and being in finance, is that finding mentors isn't a very important thing for you to do. And I'm pretty sure you had to do that when you were going through your first part of your career. Now that you're in this career of cannabis, have you been looking towards mentors? Have people been coming to you about trying to possibly help you navigate through some of these waters?
Definitely. Okay. I definitely I'm approached often from people that have money, or maybe they've created a consulting firm or something like that. I just have to be really careful. Like you said, you have to be careful who you take money from, what their motives are, all of those things. But I definitely have had a lot of really great people that didn't want anything from me and that just wanted to help me or wanted to partner with me on different things. But I'd say my mother and I have stayed pretty tight, and it's us right now. And we're definitely at the point now that it's been about a year. It's been a little over a year that we've been operational, that we're ready to kind of take it to the next level.
Good.
Which means we're going to have to raise money.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about that, the next level. Like, what do you see? What areas of growth do you see could be possible for Mary and Maine? Like, I was thinking possibly about franchising and things like that. Like, do you feel like that's part of something you're going to do soon?
Definitely. Franchising is definitely something that we're thinking about. So there's a lot of different things we can do, a lot of different ways. We thought about getting into cultivation and processing to become vertically integrated. We've thought about going and applying in different states. We've also thought about the franchising model, which I really, really like, because I feel like that gives us the opportunity to help other minorities get into this industry and be a part of what we're doing, and then use our already proven business systems and our already proven business model and our brand that's already established to build their own businesses. So I really like the franchising model. That is something we're definitely going to pursue. We're also going to be applying for other licenses in other states. But as far as kind of becoming vertically integrated or joining in and partnering, we're kind of still weighing those options.
You know, and vertically integrated, I speak about that often, especially when it comes to cash color cannabis. But speak about that, what it means in your world of cannabis, when it comes from your dispensary to the actual growing of your own product. Like, speak what being vertically integrated means on that level.
Well, being vertically integrated in any industry is almost, it's important in any industry. because then you're able to control your supply chain. Most of the time you can control your pricing. So it's super important in any industry, but in cannabis, it's extremely important because right now, while it's still federally illegal and every state has its individual frameworks, you know, if you're not vertically integrated in a state, especially in a state that has very limited licenses, you can get, you could get blackballed. You can get, there's just so many things that can happen. And me right now, I'm a one-off dispensary in Maryland. I'm not associated with any of the growers in Maryland. All the big guys are in Maryland. So, you know, like this summer, we experienced a little bit of a supply problem. You know, I'm not sure what happened. Probably just the weather being so crazy and not being able to regulate the indoor warehouses and stuff. I think people just had shortage of product this summer, and I got hit with that because I'm not associated with the grower. So, you know, when a grower is having a shortage, the first people they're going to supply are their own dispensaries.
Yes.
And then to me, it's like, you know, you're not getting any discounts and all that. And then those dispensaries are able to run better sales, have more product, all of these things. So it makes it really difficult for one-off dispensaries to survive. And then on top of that, the biggest thing about it is 280E. So 280E is a tax law that regulates all illegal businesses, not just cannabis, but any illegal business that wants to pay taxes.
Okay.
And I don't know what other illegal
that's what I'm
businesses.
Thinking. Yeah, want to pay taxes.
It happened before in the 80s. So that's why this law came about. Somebody was doing some illegal stuff and still wanted to pay Uncle Sam. So that was very admirable. So now we have this law that says that we cannot deduct normal business expenses, normal and ordinary business expenses, except for COGS. So as a retail operation, you can only deduct the cost of your product. You cannot deduct your employees. You cannot deduct your...
Oh, you're losing money.
Yeah.
Effectively,
our tax rate is about 80%.
Yeah,
so
you get
it
blitzed.
becomes really difficult. The name of the game is stay alive until prohibition is
I was
done.
going to say legalization. Yeah, just kind of trying to keep your head above water.
Yeah, that's the name of the game. Keep your head above water.
Yeah.
Expand. That's why expansion is important. That's why you see these big guys going out and winning licenses as many as they possibly can so that they can raise more money, and do more and have all this, and they have extremely high cash burns so that they can survive, but they're able to raise money at much higher rates so they can do that.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that, have you thought about somebody like actually coming on and helping you from that level? Like it probably will take somebody like you being affiliated with a grower eventually. Like have you thought about being that way?
It's either going to be me that I have to become vertically integrated, or what's going to happen is, I'm definitely gonna have to partner with someone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely, I'm very impressed by the actual growth of Marion, Maine. You know, like from the minute I heard about, actually the first time I heard about you, were you on TV?
Yeah. I was.
I believe it was, because I believe I got an email, and it was the craziest email. They said somebody's going to be on a reality show. Also, they own a dispensary, and I'm like, what? You know, it was almost like the most ridiculous thing.
We didn't touch on it at all. You would have never known I owned a dispensary, maybe unless you read the description of me on the website of the show. They had like a little snippet, and she also owns a dispensary. They never showed it on the show or anything.
But I feel like, what was this, like 2 years ago?
Yeah.
It might have been a little bit too early for people to really wrap their head around.
And that network too. It came on
it.
E.
Yeah.
So that network wasn't quite ready yet,
no,
even though, the Kardashians had their little episodes in their dispensaries and all that stuff. But, I'm not a Kardashian.
Yeah, the Kardashians basically wrong. They turn the lights on at E.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
That is their channel. Hands down about that. So, let's speak. How do we make more Hope Wisemans? We spoke briefly about how you are the youngest dispensary, African American dispensary owner in the country, basically the world. Like I mean, for real.
Probably.
Like she's in the world, Craig, at this moment. But we actually need more views, and we need more views, and we need you not to be the youngest by next year.
Yeah.
How do we create more views?
So what we really need are what is really furthering the industry right now is venture capital money, right? So like a few years ago, you saw a lot of articles coming out about how there were so many women involved in this industry, and it was one of the fastest growing industries for women, and then all of a sudden few years later, you see the decline happen super quick.
I had questions about that from the jump.
Yep, it goes from, wow, women are about 35% of the ownership of this industry down to like 20 in 2 years.
Yes.
What happened was now venture capitalists start to believe in the industry more, and they actually see, okay, this is serious, and I see where this is going. I believe in it now, right? Yeah. So as soon as venture capitalists came in, all the money shifted. The money started going immediately to those companies where most venture capitalists would normally invest. And then historically throughout all industries, Black women are the least likely category to be invested by venture capitalists, because most venture capitalists are white, older men, and they cannot see a relation to someone like me.
Yeah. Hey, could you go downstairs and get Hollywood? I'm sorry. Could somebody go downstairs and get Hollywood? She's stuck. I remember when that narrative was being pushed, and I thought it was really good narrative, but what I thought it was a setup. Yeah. Because I'm like, how many of these businesses, because I'm meeting a lot of people at this time, how many of these businesses, their only employee is them? Like, there's not really a business here. This is something you're starting. So you're throwing all these people into this percentage. And like you said, all it's going to do is hype people up with real money to come in. And when real money come in, they flushing all that out the window. Because
it's all gone.
You don't even have a business. Like, you have no people with you.
And I think that was a lot of it. I think it was a lot of hype at first. And then, once all that money started getting pushed into the industry, and now you have people that are so well capitalized. You have companies that have hundreds of millions of dollars of cash in the bank. They have plans to have they're spending 200% of their revenue on expenses, and they have plans to do that for the next 5 years. Look, so how do you compete?
It's hard. You got people like, well, for one, you got somebody like John Boehner one day pulling up, and then you got somebody like JayZ,
going to the other side.
Yeah, I mean,
JayZ didn't come and partner with an African American company.
I thought about that, but I was like, but who would he? Be completely honest with you.
He could have made a company. That's really my opinion on what he did. I feel like everything that he's going to do with the company that he signed with, he could have taken a company like mine. It didn't have to be me, but he could have taken a company like mine, put $50 million behind it, and blew it up.
I feel you. I felt that way about. I was like, look, if anything, Jay, you should be over here with Cash Color Cannabis. Like, dog, we should really be there. He should be
doing stuff with African American brands, but at the same time, somebody has to get in there and really advocate for us. I hope in the future he takes the position that he'll have with being with this company, because this company that he's with is huge, and they're doing really well. So hopefully he can progress himself in this industry and then come back and reach down and have his hand out again.
What I want to see Hov be able to do is actually show a actual power of hip hop in cannabis. You know, because we have Snoop Dogg. I think Snoop is actually really powerful,
Snoop is great.
He plays it so far to the back. Like, it's almost to the point where how they even connect Mary Jane with Snoop Dogg is almost like, come on, there's nothing on here hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Like, almost nothing on here hip hop.
Two, you gotta realize at this point the commercialization of cannabis has happened.
Yes.
Okay, so it's extremely corporatized at this point, and the people who are running these billion-dollar companies, the first cannabis billionaire has been made. Okay, the CEO of Curaleaf is a billionaire. Okay, that's just the first one. These companies are already worth billions of dollars.
Yeah.
So those guys are not hip hop guys.
Not at all.
Okay, so I'm just. And JayZ has the ability to be able to sit at the table with those guys. Yeah. So I just feel like, he has to be able to leverage that, because your average African American doesn't have the opportunity to sit at those tables.
No, and also I think Jay's in a good position, because I think Jay actually cares about the business. Where you got people like Wiz and them, I don't think they even care about the business necessarily. Like, they just really cool being where they're at. Yeah. And they don't never necessarily leverage some of their ability. Like even I'll bring up another person, Burner. Burner figured out a way to really leverage his brand, like Cookies. Khalifa Kush is actually a good name brand, but it's like it's nowhere close to Cookies. You know what I mean?
Cookies is like he
takes that serious.
The one staple cannabis brand that most people know, white, black, recreational, medical. So Cookies is even going to be in Maryland soon, and Maryland's a straight medical state. He got a partnership with a brand out in Maryland.
Takes it
Cookies
serious.
Is going to be everywhere.
Takes it serious. I think 2 Chainz is the next one to take it serious.
Yeah, 2 Chainz is a smart businessman. Yeah.
I'm nervous about Chainz. Makes me nervous. When I saw he picked up A3 Seed, I was like, okay, Chainz is really getting close. Yeah.
Yeah. His brand is called Gas or something. Yeah. Which. It's oddly close to Gas House. I don't like it.
It's oddly close to the most generic name. And I was like, if you look at and I don't want to name names because I feel like it's Green Street Marketing puts them out. And I'm like, why are y'all giving these rappers these most generic names like Trees by Game, like Gas by 2 Chainz? Like,
Gas.
We didn't think about nothing. We didn't do a market research study at all. Just grab the name.
Well, they did because they did, and they know that the urban communities will immediately Gas. I know what that is.
Yeah.
That's what that's about.
Yeah, you know what's funny though? I remember the first reaction on Instagram, and we know what that is, and what we know is why do you have levels of what was it, regular, mid, and premium? Like we don't want the other two.
I never want to smoke a mid.
We don't want the other two. You could have left those out.
Yeah, but I take it back. You know what? I will say now that I operate a dispensary, the demographics that come into dispensaries are just so interesting. It's not what you think.
Okay.
Out of my dispensary, I'd probably say 60% of my patients are over the age of 55.
Are they consuming flower or are they edibles?
Yeah, I'd say mostly flower. The next highest category in my store are cartridges. And then after that, chewables. A lot of people like chewables in my store, tablets, topicals, and tinctures. Concentrates are still not as popular in my store, but I'm kind of located in an urban community.
I'm not a concentrate person, and I feel like that's still something that has to be sold to us in a different package. Because I keep seeing Corrupt's brother passing out, like trying to dab on that. I don't know if you've seen the video on World Star with Corrupt's brother Roscoe is taking a dab, and he starts hitting it, and he coughs 3 times, and he just passes out, and knocks out. And first time I saw that, I told him I ain't dabbing. Like Stanley keeps trying to give me the dab, and I'm like, bro, I'm not doing it.
So the only time that I've ever really dabbed was when I was in like serious pain, like when I was prescribed opioids.
Oh.
So
they knocked you out.
Yeah, well, not knocked me out, but like it helped with the pain. I'd say it's just really concentrated. It's very concentrated. So it's extremely strong. It's not for everyday use. Or if it is in very, very small increments or higher CBD versions than THC. But I mean, people are dabbing like, 90% THC. I can't do it. I'm not a fan. And there's been a lot of studies that say, things that are that concentrated and isolates that are 90% and all that stuff are not the best for you.
No.
So
think about 90% cocaine. Like that's
pretty
not
much.
good for you.
That's not good for you.
Put it in those contexts.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's insanity, man. So what's the most popular product there at the
definitely flower.
Really? Is there a strain in particular?
There's a few strains that people like. People in my store like Do-si-do. Get a lot of Diesel Dough. That's another one that people like in my store. But a lot of people like names that they recognize. Okay. Sour Diesel.
Of course.
OGs, any Kushes, they like those.
That's me. I'm walking in any dispensary I walk into. give me an OG. Give me an OG.
But you have to realize now too, especially it's a medical dispensary, right? Mm-hmm. So my, we call them experience agents, but most people would identify with bud tenders.
I like that name, experience agents.
Experience agents.
That's
because we call our dispensary floor the experience room.
See, that's somebody who's been in business before. Like that, I like that name, experience.
Yeah, the experience.
That's
agents.
Like Apple.
Exactly.
Like Apple
well, originally we had kind of like an Apple idea, originally. So that's probably where it came from. And I just really want people to feel comfortable, whether you're young, old, whatever you do, whether you're a professional, whether you're an entrepreneur. I want you to feel comfortable in my spot. And I want you to feel like you can ask questions. So I train all my experienced agents to be able to speak to the terpene profiles and the cannabinoid profiles rather than the actual names of the strains.
Yes, let people know what they're actually doing.
And then get them to understand, how it works in their body. I need them to understand that, look, how something affects you is not going to be the same way it affects someone else. No. We all have different endocannabinoid systems, and we try and introduce that to them in the most simple way in the beginning. And I'm really excited now. There are tests coming out that kind of tell you what your typical endocannabinoid system balance is, which is so dope.
I think that's dope too. Like, let me get to the point of what I want to do.
Yeah, and then you just know it's like, look, I react well to high CBN. Yeah. It's like, who would know that? And everyone's so caught up on like, in the beginning, we had a lot of patients coming in like, what's the highest THC flower that you have for the cheapest. Like, that was the statement. Like, what's the cheapest, highest THC? And I'm like, look, just because something is 30% THC doesn't mean that it's going to work well with your body. And just because you deal with something that's 15% THC doesn't mean I've smoked things that are 15% THC versus 30, and the 15% THC worked better for me than the 30.
I believe that, but again, it takes more learning on our behalf to really understand the full level and the full power of the plant. And I feel like a lot of us just haven't really opened up to experiencing it totally.
Right.
There's still people out here who really haven't understood good weed. Like to be completely honest with you, and that's the even the more killer, man.
Yeah.
So what are we gonna see you at next? Actually, before I ask you that one, social equity. That's a big conversation right now. Clearly, it was part of my conversation this past weekend. I really believe that when we talk about anything involving people of color getting an actual place or actual standing, I think media is the first place you need to go, honestly. And I think that laws and everything else, they change by the day. Politicians change by the day. But Jet Magazine, Ebony Magazine were there for a long time, and they gave us a huge platform when nobody else would get that platform. What's your idea when it comes to social equity? Like, what do you think the best ways and the best methods are going about it when it comes to cannabis and making sure that people are insured? Well, not insured, but people are getting information. They are getting themselves a step into the door, and they are getting themselves a chance up. Yeah.
So I think media is extremely important. I've definitely utilized the platform that I have to be able to bring awareness to it. That being said, to be able, right now we have this unique opportunity for the next few years, especially as more states are coming on board and states are fixing their programs that are already in existence. We have this unique opportunity to actually influence the laws that are shaping this industry. And now is the time that we can ensure that the discussion is being heard from that perspective and being written into the laws. Yes, they can change, but maybe that's our way to get our foot in the door.
Yes.
I know right now Maryland just, which is the state that I operate in, Maryland just they had an application process that was targeted specifically around women and minority-owned businesses, because in the first round they did not license any women or minorities for grows and processing, which are extremely valuable companies.
Yes.
You can sell the piece of paper after you win a grow. At this point in the game, right now, while we're still early before federal legalization, as soon as you win a grow license, you could sell the piece of paper for $20 million. So, and that's me being conservative and that's very conservative.
We all need to go in on a grow.
It's difficult though. They're not giving it to you. I'll tell you that. They're not giving it to you.
And I'm from Boston. So when I ever go home, I had a chance to go see my cousins. I got a cousin who owns a smoke shop. I got another cousin who literally has a grow in his basement. And I'm watching so many changes happen in this city, and I'm nervous. And I remember telling my cousin that. And as a matter of fact, I had a chance to speak with Chanel Lindsay about it as well. Yeah. Things I get nervous about when it comes to Boston is, I want to make sure that people who I know did a lot of time or had to waste a lot of time in jail, been going back and forth over these laws, gets a chance really to get in these doors. And it does sound like something to me that I could hear me being against. Like, I'm not big on just letting people do things, but this is something I feel like actually is needed. There's no way we could actually with a clear conscience make money while people are getting arrested for this.
And there are people still sitting in jail right now.
No way. There's no way with a clear conscience.
It bothers me sometimes. I think about like when we get those big deliveries, we might get 15 pounds delivered at once, and I'm like sitting in the room with 15 pounds. And
you're the plug now.
Yeah, I'm sitting there with 15 pounds and I'm looking like, that's crazy. Like, there's a guy sitting in jail right now that had probably 100 pounds with him, and was doing it well. And I think to myself, if you really, not everybody who's sitting in jail this applies to, but like if you can run a high level operation, if you had a lot of people under you, you probably, with some help, could run a compliant business now. So, it's going to take people like me that already have our foot in the door to fight for it. And I get tired. I get overwhelmed with, I'm really trying to run my business and survive. But then I feel like, it's my duty to advocate for those who can't advocate for themselves, because who else is going to do it?
Yeah. I'm glad I met you this weekend. Yeah, let's advocate together, man. What are we going to see you in 10 years?
Oh, man. So I hope Well, no, I know in 10 years, I plan to have built a pretty decent sized portfolio of cannabis companies and have sold it.
I like that idea.
That is
build it to sell,
build
man.
it and sell it.
Yeah.
Unless it starts going really, really well, and I see the pathway to going public. But most likely I'll end up selling, and I hope to be doing some high level business development for a big cannabis company, and then doing philanthropy on the side and maybe some real estate or something.
Man, she had that plan.
Oh yeah, I got a plan. Yeah, but you have to. I mean, this industry is so dog eat dog. Like you can't do it without a plan.
You do. So if somebody wanted to stop by and see Mary in Maine, or if they wanted to get some more information about it, where would they go?
Yeah, so you can follow the company at Mary in Maine. That is MaryandMain. Also, you can check out our website at maryandmain.com. And then if you want to follow me and all the things that I'm doing personally, my Instagram is I am Hope So Dope. Exactly how it's spelled all the way through.
Yep.
And then my personal website, Hope Wiseman, and it's spelled like wiseman.com.
Oh, you know what? Make sure you get her Instagram correct. There is a Hope is dope, but it's not her.
Not Hope is dope. I am Hope So Dope.
Hope, I thank you for coming by today. That was a great interview.
Thank you so much for having me.
Before you go, I got a gift for you. I wanted to give you one of our Meet the Dealer shirts. I gave you a Ronald Reagan.
Oh, that's awesome. It says drug lord.
Yeah, I gave you a Ronald Reagan drug lord.
With Reagan with the thumbs up.
Yeah, man.
It's awesome.
Man.
I love it.
Yeah, he brought us a lot of memories, man. We're all here now. Oh man,
yeah, we're here now. Yeah, we need to talk later.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the next life.
I appreciate you for coming out. Thank y'all everybody for coming through and checking out this interview on a Monday night. And that's Cash Color Cannabis, a high level of conversation on LivehiphopDaily.tv.